Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My goodness,
We're all here.
we're around the table, all four of us.
End of February.
Woohoo! I mean, this is a little bit later than we were hoping, wasn't
we
it?
kind of booked something in for January,
Yeah.
but it didn't happen.
I mean, you were super organised and gave us like the
Oh,
whole year's
loads
worth
of dates.
podcast, and we
Yeah,
were like,
all sorts of
yes,
meetings.
we're on the run, and then sickness and illness and the madness
Busyness
of
and
life
Yeah.
coming into 2025. Here we are for the first time. What are we, the 24th of February?
It is.
and
Yes.
James is back with us.
Yes.
I missed the last one, didn't I?
I think so.
Something sort of happened. We'll get into that.
We will. And actually, it's a bit of a special one tonight because we are all four round the table, but we won't all four be round this table for much longer.
Oh,
One of us is leaving the table.
That's quite tragic.
It's I mean, we're all in mourning.
well, three of us are.
Mr. Dunbar, this is your last
It
time
is.
with us round the table.
Yes,
Yeah.
my time has come. I think we've been doing this, from my point of view, a year and a half now. That's quite a long time, isn't it? Good innings.
Good innings. Well, interestingly, we had the discussion and we said that we really wanted just one more podcast with you before you kind of leave our little team. Thankfully, you're not leaving our friendship group because, I mean, I'd be more devastated by that. So you're still our friend.
I'm still around to annoy you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
brilliant.
definitely.
But you're just deciding you just want to talk to us without there being a mic in front of your face,
Yeah.
which I kind of understand. But we really wanted one last podcast with you. And actually, you guys have been through quite a journey, haven't you, since the last time we were all together?
That's a little bit of an understatement.
Mm.
So that you guys, that's myself and my family, Sharon, my wife, and my son Zach. Yes, it's been quite an interesting journey. Shall I kick off?
Yeah, please,
We've,
share
where
what's
we've
been
been
going on.
So I think I have to entitle this story because there'll be people listening to this who have no idea. So I think the title is How I Nearly Lost My Son, and how he nearly died. So that's where we're going. So I look at my notes because normally I just rattle off the top of my head, but I've got notes because there's lots of details to share. And not boring details. It's been quite an extraordinary journey, and lots of God in there. Lots of God.
Awesome.
So I don't want to miss things out. But basically, rewinding over 2 months now, December 6th, Zach, he's 20, still living at home with us. He comes back from a 6-day holiday from Morocco, and he's shocking. He's really, really unwell. Typical flu symptoms. Goes straight to bed. Doesn't really say much to us. That's the Friday night. Saturday, he's unwell. Typical, just unwell stuff. He's vomiting, not eating, and at the end of the day, he starts to lose his ability to talk properly, and he's not able to walk properly, which is a bit concerning.
Yeah, very.
So I do the classic and look up Google, because Google knows everything, doesn't it, really? And Google says he's probably dehydrated. So I say, drink up, son, and you'll be fine in the morning. So come the next morning, Sunday morning, he was not fine. He was much worse. And we're like, right, you're going to A&E. What do you think a young man's response to going to A&E was? No, thank you. Get in the car, son. So he's pretty much dragged to the car. By the time we get to A&E triage, he is so uncoordinated with his speech and his walking that he looks very drunk. And of course, at triage, they say, what's your name, date of birth, etc. And he's not actually able to be understood at this point properly. So I'm filling in. And at the same time saying, he's not drunk.
Yeah.
He's not taking anything. You need to take this very seriously. There's something very wrong with him. So, he gets admitted. And immediately the staff take it very seriously. They recognise there's a problem here. And it's Sunday afternoon, and they're throwing a barrage of tests at him. He gets a CAT scan, and at this point, Sharon and I are sort of half going in, half not going in. We're sharing it, and I'm at home, and he's about to have a lumbar puncture. So I say to Sharon, don't be in the room. this is not a good idea.
Hmm.
Of course, my beloved wife takes absolutely no notice of me, and she's in there, and as they tried to set the lumbar puncture, they fail 3 times.
Oh
Bless his
no.
heart.
And so they're prodding her around in his spine. Can't do it. Sharon's like, I think I need to leave. So she exits the room and is stopped by some magnetic security doors to exit outside. She just needs a bit of fresh air.
Mm.
And then suddenly she's on the floor
Bless her
because
heart.
she's not drunk, she's not eating, and she's really, really stressed, obviously, and
Yeah.
just witnessed a lumbar puncture. So she's on the floor and suddenly there's alarm bells ringing and people running around her. She's very popular suddenly.
And I'm very embarrassed.
Yeah.
No, I don't think
Isn't
she was.
she?
Well, she was. Yes, I suppose she was embarrassed, but there was an element of that. But she was like, just
At that
Can
point,
I-
she didn't care, probably.
she didn't. There was a massive element of I don't care.
Yeah.
She got admitted, and while she was on the floor, seeing all these legs of all these people, she saw in the distance this. What she said was a woman who looked a bit crazy. And I said, "Are you sure you weren't looking in the mirror or something? Just joking around like that."
Oh,
That
that was dangerous.
Oh.
Stuart had to hold the
I
microphone,
pulled my microphone
from his
away then
mouth
out
then.
of shock. Oh,
Because
James.
this crazy woman was nowhere to be seen at all. And I was like, it must have been her. Anyway, Sharon felt very exonerated later on because she was found, this woman. She was, in fact, in a room that could be seen from where Sharon was. So
Okay.
she wasn't crazy. Sharon was admitted, and it was a good thing because it made her stop.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what? She was just being mum and
Mm.
being frantic, and it caused her to stop. So that was good in a way. Right, I'm now looking at my notes because I've been rabbiting. Okay. So I'm going to fast forward to about day 4 at this point and just describe how ill Zach actually was.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So about the middle of the first week, he was his absolute worst. This is before they'd thrown much drugs at him.
Mhm.
I think with the hospital, before they throw drugs at somebody, they want to understand the condition rather than
Mhm.
throw the wrong drug at him.
Mm.
And so he basically was pretty much illegible. You'd catch the odd word. For himself to be understood, he had to speak slowly.
Mhm.
But that's not his personality, so it would come out too fast and we didn't know what he said. He couldn't walk across the room. He had to grab rails, furniture, or a person to get anywhere.
Mm.
Zero ability to balance, zero. But he still had all his strength, which was an important
Mhm.
point for the medical staff. That ruled out so much. And possibly the worst part of it was the nausea. He was,
Mm.
it just affected, his brain was affected, and the nausea was insane, and he was just vomiting just continuously. And this just went on and on and on. Eventually they threw some steroids at him that just took the edge off his condition, but just the edge,
Mm.
nothing more than that. And he had maximum anti-sickness medication left, right and centre, and he was just looking at the clock for the next dose because it was just the amount of sickness was awful.
Mm.
Horrendous.
Right, looking at my notice.
And he wasn't eating at
No.
this stage at all, was he?
Well, the odd morsel,
Okay.
and it was morsels.
Yeah.
And he was hungry.
Yeah.
He said, I'm hungry,
Bless his heart.
but he couldn't eat
Mm.
because it came up.
Can we just give a bit of context?
Go on.
How tall is Zach?
Just over 6 foot, I think.
So we're not talking a little scrap of a thing. We're talking a guy that loves food.
He quite likes the gym.
Absolutely, you're talking a healthy guy,
Mhm.
and this just absolutely annihilates his body.
Yeah.
Mm.
Goes from fully going on holiday with a friend, having an amazing time, to coming home, not being able to, within 48 hours, being able to speak or walk.
Yep.
And then doesn't eat because he can't keep anything down
Nope.
for days and days and days. And they still don't know at this point. So you've said fast forward 4 days. At this point, scans have come back.
At this point, we had
No
had
answers.
a what's the other scan? Not the CAT
MRI.
scan. MRI.
Yeah.
That was annoying. It took ages.
That took a bit longer, didn't
Took
it?
a bit longer. Yeah. It's fuzzy in my head exactly the timings, but
Mm.
But just on the line of reiterating how ill he was, I did ask the medical staff at the end of his journey if he would have survived without medical input, and they said absolutely no chance.
Wow.
No chance would he have survived. So that's really how serious it was.
Wow.
So this is kind of about my story as well as Zach's.
Yeah.
This is me sharing the story. So both Sharon and I, we learned so much about God. We really both really grew. And this whole journey, most of the time I had this deep confidence that everything would be fine. And I'm generally quite a prophetic person and hear God quite well. And I was just hearing that strong voice, it's going to be fine. However, the stuff that I saw in front of me didn't really tally with that. So there's this really, really strange tension within me, seeing the natural failing of his health failing, but God saying he'll be fine. The other detail about his health is that in 2 weeks he dropped 15 kilograms because he couldn't eat. So that was really, really a wild journey. So Sharon has given me some notes.
So 15 kilos, that's just over 2 stone in old money.
Yeah, so I have converted to kilos these days. So he was 85, he went under 70.
Right.
Jeez.
That's a
And
big drop. Yeah.
And he's over 6 foot.
Okay.
So that is a massive drop.
So, okay, so we've got to the point where you're about 2 weeks in, so you've said, because you went just then 2 weeks, but how long?
You actually have a faith that the way I'm sharing this story is actually linear. It's not quite that linear.
That's okay. That's okay.
But go on.
No. So just wanting to pull it back. So we've done the 4 days in. It's in a really bad way. You still haven't had MRIs. There are nothing else at this point that they're able to do. They're just kind of giving anti-sickness.
Yep.
IV antibiotics was.
Yep.
They'd even started to think rabies at one point, so they had to start him on some pretty fierce medication for that to rule that in and out.
Yep.
So you're talking for two parents sitting there. This is horrific.
Because you're watching your son get worse and worse, and there's no answers at this stage.
So you are jumping ahead a bit, but we'll do that. So basically, after 2 weeks, Zach had no improvement neurologically.
Yep.
So they were saying it was affecting his brain, the cerebellum part of his brain. That's what's responsible for controlling motor movements. And that's why he felt sick, because it's the balance system as well.
Right.
2 weeks in, neurologically, no improvement at all, but he was going downhill because he wasn't eating.
Yep.
We're going the wrong direction in the story. I want to share a bit about Sharon. She's given me some notes that she was happy for me to talk about. So Sharon was obviously talking to God a lot, going, what the heck is going on here? And God answered some of her questions that really, really deepened her faith. I tried to do justice of what Sharon shared with me. She said, I'm confused, God, because you are a healing God. I know you are a healing God, so what the heck is going on here? And she was like, how do I hold this together? This, again, a similar tension to me, really. You heal, God, but I'm not seeing you do that. So there's a mismatch here. And God says to her, it's the wrong question. The question you should be answering, how do you walk through this journey? Yeah. And just, God's good at that, doesn't he? He changes our questions.
Yeah.
And these things that Sharon engaged with God with, it really changed how she journeyed. It was, my words, I think less panicky and more faith, even though things apparently weren't happening. Yes, and another point Sharon shared with me, she really, it's horrible to watch your child suffer.
Yep.
Massive. And she was like, God, if I could take his place, I'd go through this for him. And she felt God say to her, that he chose for his son to suffer for us. He made that choice. And that is how much I love you. that I put my son through that. I'll say more about Sean later, but that sort of comes later in the journey.
That's a beautiful thing, isn't it? When all of a sudden the Lord brings back the beauty of a relationship with the Father is that He knows. You know, we can so often just walk along through life and think, oh, you know, how do you know? And yet we've got a God that's a Father that saw the beating of His own Son, and it wasn't just a little bit of a beating; it was ripping flesh, horrific beating, and then hung on a cross and continued to be whipped and continued to have a spear in His side. And God saw and watched all of that and knew that if He intervened, it would break the thing that He wanted, and it was that His Son was coming. And you just think, it floors you in those moments when you think, my God knows how I'm feeling in this moment. It's so beautiful. What a little gift that the Lord just speaks over Sharon in that moment.
She had more, but we were disorganised, and so if you know Sharon, you have to ask her more yourself.
And I love the way you just simply said that God changes our questions, because He really does.
He does that a lot, doesn't he? And it helps
does
us
when you ask raw, honest questions.
Yes.
God has an amazing way of answering, sometimes with another question, or answering with His presence, or answering with something different to the question you've asked, but it's what you actually needed.
Yeah.
Very often we don't need the question answered that we're asking.
I'm
Because
not sure I remember an occasion that God did give me the answer I was.
You thought
asked.
you wanted.
Yeah. Okay, where are we? Okay, so I just want to talk about angels. Zach was in hospital for almost a month, and God sent so many people into the wards who were Christian, who shouldn't have been there. Various situations. I just want to point out two. So first of all, there's a doctor in our church called Sam, and he's a specialist in this very area. And so once he found out, he contacted me and said, I'm here to help. Tell me all about it. And you know, he's not a close friend, and so you feel a bit awkward asking somebody for help. They've offered their help, but you're like, don't want to bother them too much, do you?
Yeah.
All my life, Sam was amazing. If I left it too long without saying something, you think, what's going on, James? What's going on? Tell me the information, tell me the medical terms, tell me this. So he'd pester me, which was brilliant, because I felt completely comfortable. When I really needed to know something, I could just go, yeah. And I failed miserably to tell him all the correct medical terms. He, in the end, managed to get one of the doctors to talk directly to him, and that was great because they talked their doctor stuff.
That's amazing.
And he predicted well ahead of the local hospital staff what treatment Zach would have.
Wow, come on.
And at one point, one of the doctors said, no, you won't need that. This is plasma exchange. No, he won't go that far. And someone's saying, that's probably something that's becoming soon. A few days later, that doctor had to eat his words because Zach got transferred to King's in London for this more specialist procedure. So that was one angel. And another example of an angel, it was a lady in our church called Andrea. She works in the hospital, and she just popped up at the end of her shift a couple of times. And on one particular time, this is still in the local hospital, Zach had enough with his cannula. He was being a bad patient at this moment, shall we say. And he pulled his cannula out, and he was like, I've had it with this place. He couldn't walk. He said, I'm leaving, but I'd love to see him try because he couldn't walk. But he still had energy and feist. And he didn't want anyone to put cannula in. No, I've had it with that. Andrea comes up, and she's just, I guess she's dealt with these situations before. Zach knew her, and she just said, yeah, you need to do this, Zach. And she just spoke the right words, and Zach was like, go on then, here's my arm. Prick it again another time. I think at the end of his stay in hospital, we counted the number of times he was likely to be punctured. It was, I can't think what it was now, it's like 80 times or something. It was a ridiculous number of times. He got very dehydrated in Pembury, and when you're dehydrated, your veins disappear.
Mm.
So they couldn't. That makes it even harder.
Yeah.
Compounds the problem. So that's just 2 angels that I've mentioned by name, but oh my goodness me, there were
So many more, weren't there?
Oh yeah. And we were so prayed for. I'll come to that a bit later, but we had so many people praying for us that there was honestly, it's funny how when you have a conversation about stuff after the event, Sharon told me stuff that I claimed she'd never spoken to me about, but maybe I forgot. I don't particularly remember feeling the presence of Jesus in the room. That was me. But Sharon said, oh no, there really was the presence of Jesus in that room. I was like, oh, was there? So for her, there was. And in both hospitals, the staff really loved on Zach. And I think it was about the presence that he carried and we carried because of the prayers. In the second hospital, King's Hospital, a friend came to visit, one of his friends, and they happened to be going out in the lift with one of the staff members, and the staff member said, he's our favourite.
Oh.
So it was a real confirmation that,
Yeah.
he was loved, and actually it was the presence of God, because that wasn't really speaking much. He didn't have anything to say. He couldn't speak. But it was, all those prayers. So I've got in my notes here that we went to King's College Hospital. I've done that bit, haven't I? Yeah. So this is page 1 I've just done. We're moving to page 2.
Can I just say the move to King's?
Yep.
That was quite massive.
Mm.
That feels even more scary. What is it about being sent to a London hospital? You know, when you're in your local hospital, but the moment you get there, we're sending you to London, there just seems to be this little bit of this, things are cranking up a gear and you're further away from home. And this is all happening over Christmas.
Mm-hmm. This was the lead up to Christmas.
And you also have a daughter that's in the midst of all of this. That must have been incredibly hard navigating all of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually reminded me of something about another just a miracle of God, really. I'll give God all the credit. So we were told we were going to King's, and we were there within the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a side room. So most of the beds on that ward were multiple people in a room. 2, 3, 4 people.
Mm.
There were just 2 rooms that were ensuite, private. And we had one of those 2 rooms.
It's amazing.
And we afterwards we found out that depending on the situation, some people would wait 4 weeks to get into that ward. We got in with 24 hours, and we got a side ward. Hello.
Yeah.
One with an ensuite private
Favour.
one. Favour.
Mm.
Yeah. So just another little thing. If we'd been in the other wards, you'd be told, because Sharon and I basically did 24/7 with Zach. He was one of the youngest people there. A lot of people there were older. We bedded down with him. We'd typically do 3 nights, 3 days on, 3 days off, or just swap. And we sort of passed each other like ships in the night. We'd just swap over briefly, and then the other one would go home.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was sending regular updates.
You were. You were amazing.
To lots of people. And Sharon said, I don't really feel very comfortable with that. You're bothering people. Or you're making us the centre of attention. That sort of attitude. And God spoke to her. And she got a picture of... So in Revelation, there's a picture of a census being filled with the prayers of the saints. And she saw that image. And God said to her, Zach needs prayer. Zach needs the prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So she went from not feeling very comfortable with the updates to helping with the updates. Right, let's say this, let's say that.
Right, that's good.
So it was usually me that penned them, but she had an input after that.
Yeah.
Actually, I suppose at this point, what was it like from the outside? So we were really obviously, we were living this nightmare. What was it like for you guys from the outside? What did you see?
lots of things, but I think just going back a little to the journey to Kings, the conversations we'd had before then were along the lines of, you guys talking it through and saying things like, well, as long as he's out by Christmas, that's what we really need. Or as long as he doesn't have to go to Kings, we really don't want that. That's what we really need. Really need to get sorted here. And it was intriguing that as those sort of mile markers you'd put out and say, well, this is too far, we can't imagine going that far, as they came and went, God was still providing at each stage. And it sort of seems that that's so often what happens for us. We can't imagine the bad thing actually coming true, and when it does, it turns out either not to be so bad and it actually it's the answer that you needed, as it was in your case, or God's just with us and walking through it. So that was one interesting bit for me as I was observing. It was rough for you guys.
Super rough.
It was just rough watching and praying and seeing what was happening with Zach, because he just wasn't getting better. It was. We could see how tough it was.
You're right. At the start of the journey, you'd never have dreamt this would have lasted a month.
Yeah.
No way.
But in your mind, you're logically thinking, okay, it's going to be an infection. Okay. So you're logically, everyone's sitting back thinking that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. He's going to get treatment. And then when nothing was seeming to work, you're kind of, you're sitting at the back crying out almost as deeply for you guys, going, Lord, there needs to be an answer, because you want to give your friend an answer. Desperately want to get an answer for your friend. And I think for me, sitting back and watching the beauty of the Lord speaking in those moments and getting that first hand from Sharon when she'd phone and say, God's been saying this, or getting a little message, I can't do this, and then very quickly getting the message, God says I can, and something else has just happened and somebody else has just walked in the room, or just these beautiful things. I feel like it's an honour and a privilege to walk through a journey like this with someone, even when you don't have the answers, and at times you really wish you could take it and you wish you could fix it and you can't. But the beauty of watching God do what he was doing and being able to hear and see the way that he was encountering you, Sharon, and Eden, was a real special gift.
It's a journey that you wouldn't wish to go through or see anyone else go through.
Yeah.
But even in the middle of it, what a privilege, because my faith and what I experience with God is amazing. And for all of us. It's changed all of us. I've lost my lace now. Okay. Yeah, so I was just talking about the regular updates. And when it was all over, because when you're in it, it's all a mist. When it was over, I realised there were so many people praying for us. And it felt like there was almost a shift, and people really, really got behind us. It was quite insane. I mean, I automated it. I'm quite techie. I automated the updates. You all thought it was individual personal updates to you, but no, I was sending them to 50 people in total. There's a lot of people I sent them out to. But
you were actually writing them, weren't you?
I was writing.
It wasn't just AI writing them.
Okay.
No, don't answer that.
I will answer that. They were quite good updates, weren't they? Because
they were great. They were well worded.
Well, funny you should mention that.
Come on, don't smash the illusion.
So it wasn't even you writing updates.
Well, I would write them.
Yeah.
And then I would put it through ChatGPT and say, please improve the grammar.
Okay, well, it worked.
And I'll tell you what, the grammar was much better.
We still heard you in it, though, which is a
Oh,
good
yeah,
thing.
it was 100% me, but it was like,
Definitely.
I didn't think about wording it that way. Great.
Oh, James.
But I did. But yes, I penned everyone with the help of my friend.
And us that were on the receiving end of them were really thankful, because you were giving us updates that we could pray live into something. It was so, I was so thankful for them.
Well, at one point, I thought, right, I'm probably overloading people, so I'm going to... It was when Zach started to recover. And I was like, well, okay, I'll stop doing updates. And people were like, no, I want to know.
Mm.
People were complaining. Come on. So I just kept on sending them.
Yeah.
And actually, when you turned the corner, it still wasn't a smooth journey anyway.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
nice to
Yeah,
just send out updates.
Mm.
Okay. So we've got to the weekend before Christmas. So this is like the 21st, 22nd. I think that's the correct dates in my head of December. And we've been in Kings a couple of days. And things are really bleak at this point. This was the bottom of the journey. So Zach was not improving at all. And he wasn't able to keep food down. And so they said, right, you have these special high energy drink thingies, which I had a sniff at and had a sip at, and they were pretty horrible. But Zach was like, if this is going to fix me, I'll have them. And he tried sipping at these things, but just like anything else, he'd still get sick from these things.
Mm.
And they were talking about having a feeding tube down the nose. And I don't think Zach would have responded very well to that. But that was the next stage they were talking about.
Mm.
Both of this weekend, both Sharon and I were thinking, gosh, he's not turning around.
Mm.
And we both thought we could lose him
Mm.
at that point. This is where we're at mentally. We didn't say that to each other.
Mm.
We both kept it to ourselves. And so bringing in the sort of more spiritual side of this, a few days prior to this, I'd put the feelers out with some people that I knew were quite prophetic. I wanted to know what the heck was going on. What was the root of this? And I got back from several people that this was not natural. There was some sort of attack going on, not just with Zach, but for the whole family. I won't go into too much details here, exactly what it was. But I was like, okay, I'm getting this information, but I was really in two minds about what to do with it.
Mm.
Do I call in some super spiritual cavalry to come and pray for Zach or not? Because I thought, this is not normally the sort of thing I would do. I don't want to turn into one of these spiritual nutcases that think the devil's jumping out from every corner. So I was really pondering this. Is it natural? Is it supernatural? Is this attack or not? People saying it is. Anyway, in the end, I did ask some people, some relatives of Sharon, who are experienced in deliverance ministry, to come along. And it was a real sacrifice for them. So the lady that came was Doris, and she came with another family member called Samuel. And this is the 23rd of December she came. So this is a Monday. This is 2 days before Christmas. And Doris' birthday is the 25th of December as well, so it's a double whammo for her. It was a real sacrifice for her to do this. She trained into London from West London area. Spent half an hour with us and just prayed over Zach, just cutting off curses from various locations, family line sort of stuff. And the really important thing that she said, I'm coming on the prayers of all the people that have been praying for Zach already.
That's beautiful.
She just came in really humbly and just went through a series of prayers, got Zach to repent of various things, not his own personal stuff, but family stuff. And more importantly, they never prayed for Zach's healing at all. They just broke things off him. That's all they did. Really simple. Nothing spectacular happened. We said goodbye, and they left. And I was like, okay, so we've done this thing, which I wasn't certain about, but at the same time I had a lot of faith in it as well. I felt it was, although I said I was in two minds about it, I felt like it was also important, which is, I know it's a bit of contradictory. Anyway, that was the 23rd of December. Literally the next day, the 24th, Zach had done nothing but laid in bed. He had no energy, nothing. The next day, he said, "Dad, I want to sit up." And he sat up in bed for 30 minutes and just wanted to sit up, to stretch himself. And that was the start. That was the very beginning. Interestingly, the sickness hadn't got away at that point. He hadn't managed to eat any food, but there was some sort of strength that had returned to him. And then on Christmas Day, 2 days after that prayer, he sat up for half a day, and we took him down to the little M&S that's in the hospital for his Christmas trip out. And it was the worst Christmas of my life, but actually profoundly the best Christmas of my life. Absolutely the best Christmas. Because Zach had turned the corner. He was so obvious. Yeah. It was the best Christmas because all that religious part of Christmas, all the tradition, didn't have any of that, which is lovely, but so much of it's got absolutely nothing to do with Jesus at all. And there was nothing of that, and it was a true Christmas miracle, the way God had moved. Oh, one other little minor detail. The reason he went to King's was for this special treatment. Zach turned the corner before he had his first session. And I was like really pleased that I could see that it was the act of God, if you like, a miracle that made Zach turn the corner rather than a treatment. However, he obviously still went through this plasma exchange, and it wouldn't have done any harm at all. But I really honestly give God the glory. And all those prayers, that's what changed things around. I'm going to go slightly backwards because my notes are not in the right order. So that awful weekend, I was at home. It was the Sunday carol service. I think I've got my dates right. It was a service in the dark anyway. And it was the most wonderful experiences of church I'd ever had. Because the whole of church knew that we were in trouble and things were bad. But the last thing I wanted to do was come in and have everyone go, "Hello, how are you?" Which is sometimes you just need just you and God.
Yeah.
So we snuck. I came with Eden. We snuck in late. It was a service in the dark. Brilliant. No one's going to see us. Sat on the back row. Unfortunately, Eden clobbered a chair, which made the people in front look round and go, "Hello, how are you?" and give us massive hugs. And I was like,
Okay.
"Don't hug me too much. I might cry."
Yeah.
And sat on that back row and just in the presence of God when things were really grim was absolutely amazing. And it was communion as well. I went up for communion. It was beautiful. And then we stuck out before there was the last song. Let's leg it quickly. I felt really guilty, Obi. Maybe you remember. You sort of looked at me as I went through the door, and I was like, I just couldn't talk to anybody. I just needed to, but I felt bad because we swapped eye contact. That was a very, very powerful, one of the most powerful church services I've ever been to.
It's interesting, isn't it? When we're in those vulnerable things, you were seeing the church work. You were seeing the church being family. In such beautiful ways, in prayer, in rocking up at church and coming in and saying hello, in doing whatever they could, phone calls, stepping in medically, you're seeing what you would like to think is what the family of Jesus should all be about. But yet sometimes it's nothing against family. There's a rawness within you that you want to go in and go, "I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I want to come and be with you because I want to come and be in his house and I want to worship. And I don't want to do it anywhere else. I want to be with my family." But the
Absolutely
rawness
right.
of being with my family will tip me right over the edge and I don't think I'm ready. And it's that beautiful thing of going, family, get it? Because every single one of us have had those moments that go, "I want to be here. But if you ask me how I'm doing, I'm not sure I'm ready for the dam to break right now." So, yeah.
I feel emotional remembering and sharing it. So it was like, "Oh, wow, it was so powerful." And then, obviously, when you go forward for communion, no one knew I was there while I was in the back row, but I went for communion and everybody saw I was there. And I remember walking back and there's like people were tapping me on my arm affectionately, and like, oh no, don't do that.
Can I just say, I was leading worship, and I didn't see you there. I didn't see you rock up. I didn't see you come take communion. And can I just say, I was so
The
thankful.
lights are off. It was good.
I would have been a wreck. So when it was that you had been there, I was like, Lord, I'm so thankful I was just blinded to that, because I would have been a wreck with you. So I was very thankful for that moment that you were stealthily came in and did your thing and left, because I don't think I'd have been able to pull it together.
I just about held on. I did see you come for communion and just about held on.
Yeah, I'm very glad I didn't get to see you, my lovely friend, as much as it brought joy to my heart knowing you were there after the occasion. I was like, oh Lord, thank you for your kindness to me.
I think it was seeing Eden as well, because she was going through it in her own way.
Yeah.
And I hadn't spoken to her as much. I'd spoken to you and Sharon, and obviously to Zach a bit, but hadn't spoken a little bit to Eden. But she's going through her own version of this, isn't she?
So let me show you a little bit about Eden. So I'm at hospital on Christmas morning. Sharon and Eden are at home. Eden was going to go off to two very good family friends for the 2 days of Christmas Day and the Boxing Day, but her and Mum are at home for that morning breakfast, Christmas morning breakfast. So the day before they said, well, we need to try and make it special, don't we? So they bought nice, yummy food for Christmas morning to have together and to open a couple of presents to make it seem normal. I am told it was awful. They sat at the table and they just had to sort of swallow the food down and try not to cry. Really. So that was hard for them.
Really hard.
So I wasn't there for that bit. So Eden went off to friends, which was a massive distraction for her. Good friends. Kept her busy, but in those quiet moments she was upset. That's kind of mostly the story, really, because after that Zach got better. And he turned around on the 24th December, didn't get out until January the 3rd. I think it was maybe January the 2nd, that sort of time. I was told that the fireworks on New Year's Eve would be very exciting from the window. I was very disappointed. There was lots of them, but I was far too far away. I literally set the alarm for 11:57 to give me 3 minutes to wake up to sort of rub my eyes and look out the window. I wish I hadn't really. So very boring.
So walking through this, knowing that somebody is just facing this or in the midst of this, what have you learned that you would encourage somebody else that might be going through something like this? You've got
to do it with God. You've got to do it with Jesus. There wasn't a moment that I was walking this alone. And there wasn't a moment that I was doing this without trusting and believing in God. And things didn't turn out the way I expected. Things dragged on and went deeper, way more than I expected. God was in the journey every step of the way. I didn't actually do much praying because I was too exhausted, too stressed. There was an awful lot of people praying around me. I shot up a few hour prayers, but I didn't have any quality time with God. But I was being carried by God and journeyed with him. But don't do it alone is my advice.
It's interesting. I didn't have good quality time with the Lord. And yet you just said before that you didn't do it alone. You trusted in him and you were walking it with him. And you want to go, if that ain't good quality, right there in the midst of that, wherever we ever got that it has to be a 10-minute sitting down in a closet somewhere with your Bible out. The beauty is that every arrow that you shot up, every conversation, every thought and every heart emotion that were poured out, you were pouring it out to him.
That's absolutely right. He was literally by my side the whole time, and Sharon's. And we've both come out the other end learnt so much.
Yeah.
Learnt so much. Thank you, God, for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Amen.
You know what? I think it's always interesting, isn't it? We want to know the Father more. And yet we dread going through moments like that.
Yeah.
And yet we see him more.
We do.
You know, in the Beatitudes, when
Mhm.
it says,
Mm.
blessed are those that, blessed are those. And when you look at that list, it's none of them walking along a happy, great path where life is blinking great and I'm not struggling. The majority of that list are those that are meeting the Father in the midst of their journey that is difficult. And you think it's amazing how those are the times where we know him and we can say, I know this because he has proved himself to be true.
Yeah.
I know that he can be my source of comfort because he has been. And you think, Lord, none of us want to get to know you in that way, but yet when we walk through it with you, that experience with him, no one can take away.
Yeah.
It's beyond theology and this nice little idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's the nuts and bolts and the heartbeat of the journey.
I've heard it said, this is a long time ago and faint in my memory, there was somebody lived in a poorer part of the world, and they visited the West, and they said there's a massive, massive danger for you guys because life is far, far too comfortable for you. So you don't rely on God enough. It's too easy, and so we lack that in a rich country because we can rely on the medical teams or other things. But yeah, when life is hard, God is there.
James, thank you for sharing. You know, and thank you, Zach and Sharon and Eden, for kind of allowing us to kind of be on that journey. And I felt it was important that we shared it because the church did know. The church were praying. You know, the church were in this and carrying it with you. And there'll be a lot of people that don't know all of these other details that you're sharing. And just to hear how the Father was with you and with Sharon, how he was speaking in the midst of just really dark times, I'd imagine, in moments, that weekend and that moment where you both felt like he's not going to recover. Is this it? Have we got to prepare ourselves, Lord? To hear the kindness and the loving gentleness of the Father to just speak into those moments with you is really precious and something that we all need to hear, you know? We need to hear this stuff. We need to be encouraged on our journey. And we never want anyone to go through pain. And we never want to see any of our family and our friends suffer. But to hear all that you've shared tonight, James, to encourage us how much the Father was with you and how important it was with people praying.
That was massive. It would have been into the hundreds and hundreds from various continents around the world. From the connections. Amazing. People really, really got behind us, it felt.
You invited people in, which was beautiful. We're not always very good at that. We've got into this little bit of this thing, can't we, sometimes, where we can close down and shut down and not want people to know our business. And yet you invited people into this journey with you, and because of that you saw church family.
Yep.
And saw the Father using them. And it was beautiful.
Yeah. I think it was beautiful to watch, you know. It's your story. I could even feel the passion and the emotion while you're sharing it here, James. And we can feel it in the room here, can't we? So, yeah, I think, for me personally, I think it will be your story and your family's story on your journey with God. But from outside, it was beautiful to watch. I think it was beautiful to see the Church of God.
Absolutely.
And the family of God in action. The call to prayer. And I think for me, what I took away from that is your willingness to share the story. I'm actually opposite. Sometimes I would want to be strong and internalize and walk the journey. And what I've learned from your experience and this journey, James, is albeit ChatGTP augmented updates. That it was beautiful to carry us along that journey, because I could remember the number of times that I would want to stand up. I was about to leave or go for school run or go into a meeting, and then your update will come and I will pause. I'm praying to that update, and it was just, I felt like I was part of the journey, even though I would never be part of the journey like you were, but it just felt like we're on the journey together with you. And I could remember the day that I was chatting with you, and I was home alone with the kids, and I said, do you want to pop over for pizza and a drink? And you said, yeah, let me just come and hang out. And then you sent me an update. I said, I have to cancel because Zach is being discharged. So it almost felt like we were on the journey to the end. And I just thank God for that. I thank God for the church family. It's just beautiful to see. We stay here, and we've done podcasts for many months and a year and a half, you said, and we talk about experiences and how we journey different times with God. And it's just beautiful that in this time and in this season, it happened right in the midst of us, and we had that journey almost together. So it's just beautiful to see God at work. So thank you. I'm just grateful to God for that journey as well.
For what's to come. For me, it's like, I'm looking forward to what's to come through Zach.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. The Lord never, ever wastes anything. He uses all things for the good of those that love him. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come from this, because the testimonies don't just stop.
No.
Because when he reveals a little bit of his personality and his kindness and his truth to you, that changes things. It changes the way you do life. It changes the way you see things. And I'm really excited to see that for Zach as he's taking this on, because this was happening to him. You were on the outside, he was in it, and I'm looking forward to having some time with him and hearing in time to come his
talk to
own
Zach
stuff.
directly. I mean, I'm sort of biting my tongue because I'd say more, but actually that's his story.
Yeah.
And I don't want to overshare.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
if you're in the church, then talk to Zach about his journey, about this. But he's grown as well, obviously. We all have. It's been amazing.
How can you not, huh? How can you not? Appreciate you, James, and thank you for letting us come on the journey with you, and thank you for coming back to come and do the last podcast with us.
A pleasure. It's been nice. It makes me think, why am I leaving?
Yes, it makes me think that. Why are you? No, we understand and we totally get it, and it's an honour to just hear what you guys have been going through, and how the end of last year was not ending in a way you would have ever have hoped and dreamed. And the beginning of the year was just seeing a glimmer of hope and shift and change, and
a bit of recovery time as well.
Yes,
because that was intense for you.
I suppose actually to give an update, we're recording this on February 24th, and Zach he's almost there, but he's not 100%.
Yeah.
He'll occasionally stumble still.
Yeah.
But he is expected to make 100% recovery.
Yeah.
But the recovery at the end just gets slower and slower and slower.
Okay.
But even if he never got any better than this, you wouldn't inhibit his life ever in any way. He's completely functioning 100%. Just the odd occasional random stagger. But that will fade. And we've seen it fading slowly and slowly over the weeks. So he's going to be 100% normal. Yeah. Which is great.
which is awesome from where he was at in the journey. It's absolutely beautiful. It really is. So thank you, Mr. Dunbar. We're going to miss you around this table. We really are. We're going to miss you. We're going to miss.
I'm still in your lives. Don't worry.
We are.
Yeah, we're going to miss your voice, and I have no doubt our listeners will miss your voice as well, because you had some grand stuff to share. And what are we going to do now with AI? You know, when somebody wants to tell us about Claude, huh? Claude is no longer going to be here. What are we going to do without Claude?
Oh,
James,
dear.
we're sending love to your beautiful family.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sharon and Eden and Zach, for letting us walk it with you. And
Definitely.
quite frankly, we wouldn't have wanted to have been anywhere else, to be honest.
Oh, thank you for being there for me.
Hey, that's
And
what
journeying.
family's for. It really is. So, I mean, I hope, like any time that we get together and we record anything, we want to encourage, you know, that's what we're here for, because we encourage each other. When we're in conversation or we hang out and we just share a little bit of what's going on in our lives and we see the Lord speaking, it encourages us. And I hope that if anybody that's listening to this is going through a really tough time, we say it a lot, share, invite family in.
Yeah.
Let people in, safe people. People go to church, go and speak to somebody. Let somebody in, if it's one or if it's more, to come and partner with you and share with you, that you wouldn't walk any journey that you're on your own. And see the church work and allow the church to be family to you. It's so important.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even when you don't think you're having quality time with the Father, whatever that's supposed to look like and whatever formula we've made it to be, the second you're asking him into a situation is good enough for him. The moment you're turning your face towards him, that's good enough for him. And he's there and he hears you and he doesn't need you to do any more than that. Just lift up your eyes, lift up your voice, turn towards him and he is there. Keep going. Let people in. And just as James and Sharon and Zach and Eden have seen, he shows up. He is who he says he is. He's a comforter. He's full of truth. And he might not be answering your prayers in the way that you want to, but maybe listen to the question that he's putting before you, because it's maybe something that you need to hear. Be encouraged and be blessed. And guys, thank you for tonight. I have missed being around the table with you guys. I look forward to doing it again in a few weeks. And thank you, James.
Yeah,
we're going to
thank you,
miss
James.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, guys.
Bless you.
That's it.
Good night, gents.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.